Hello guys, how are we all doing? Welcome back to yet another video on the channel. Now today we are back with the championship content, and because we're roughly halfway through the championship season, what I thought we could do, which is quite fun, is guess where I think each championship team will finish this season in terms of how many points I think they'll get. As you can see, at the top we've got 81 to 100 points, 72 to 80 points, 63 to 71 points, 54 to 62 points, 45 to 53 points, and 0 to 44 points. We'll start at the bottom and work our way up. Just before we get into today's video, guys, a reminder to those of you that haven't already, hit the like button, subscribe if you're new, and let's get started with Derby County. So then, Derby County currently on 1 point at the time of recording this video. They've had 2 points deductions. I don't think they're going to get any more, so they should finish on positive points this season. But how many? It's hard to see how they're going to get past 44, 45 points this season. So for Derby County, for me, it's an easy one. I think they'll be down there. Don't get me wrong, they're really battling and they're really giving it a go in some games, but ultimately, to get 45 points this season from where they are now would be playoff form. I don't know if Derby County are capable of it. In terms of if they can stay up this season, what they need is a low tide. They need quite a few teams to finish on around 40 points. That way they could just sneak out. But is it going to happen? I don't know. Next up, a Barnsley Football Club. I didn't think I'd be saying this, especially at the start of the season, when you think back to they finished in the playoffs last season. Obviously, the departures of Alex Mauer and the manager seem to have really killed them, and this season they just look totally hopeless. I think Barnsley Football Club are another team that are going to struggle to get 45 points this season. Once again, they could stay up this season if there's a low tide, if there's a few teams that get sucked into the battle, but will that happen? Once again, I don't know. Next up are Peterborough United. At the time of recording this, they are struggling the most out of the newly promoted clubs, but don't get me wrong, they're giving it a go. They are scoring some goals, and at home they don't look too bad. It's on the road and defensively that are the issues for Peterborough, and once again they might need a low tide. They might need a few teams to get sucked in if they were to stay up this season. I think it's possible for Peterborough. They're not a million miles behind, but they need to try and keep within touching distance. I don't think they're going to get 45 points this season, so I'm going to put them in there. Next up are Cardiff City. They obviously had a slow start this season. I think Mick McCarthy going has really helped them out, and in the last few results they have been winning a few more. It might still be a season where they want to chalk it off and move on to the next one. I think they'll climb a few places come the end of the season. I'm going to put Cardiff City 54 to 62 points. It'll be interesting to come back to this video at the end of the season and see if that was right. Next up are Reading Football Club, and if it wasn't for the points deduction, I'd probably put them on a level with Cardiff, but the points deduction's obviously knocked 6 points off the tally. I do think they should have enough to stay up, but it might just be between 45 and 53 points for Reading FC this season. Next up, Hull City. At the time of recording this, they're in really good form. If they were to carry it on over a long time, they could really climb the table. But I think their form will peter out a little bit. But I think that form really has given them a good cushion over the bottom three, and I think they will stay up this season. I'm going to put them between 45 and 53 points, and just staying up this season would be a fantastic achievement in itself for Hull City FC this season. Next up, PNE, Preston North End. I think they're going to climb the table a little bit in the second half of the season. They're good at times. Remember, they've drawn with Fulham, they've beaten Bournemouth. They're good when they go up against the top teams, but at times drop some really silly points. I think Preston will probably finish around mid-table. 54 to 62 points for Preston North End. Next up are Bristol City. At the time of recording this, they've won 2 of their last 3, which is really good for Bristol City. Once again, I do think they'll stay up. They're a team that need to just keep churning out results here and there. That win against Derby County was crucial. The last thing they want to do is get sucked in by the bottom 3. I think Bristol City will stay up, but it might not be a great season. They're very inconsistent, so they could finish anywhere. I'm going to say 45 to 53 points for them. Next up are Birmingham City. Really, really tricky team to predict. I don't know how many times I've predicted their results correct this season because they seem to go from winning to losing, good streaks to bad streaks. I think they're looking like they're going to finish mid-table this season. They're not bad enough to go down, but they're not consistent enough to go up, are they? I think with Lee Bowyer and some of the players they've got, I think they're looking at probably having a mid-table season. So 54 to 62 points for me. I'm also going to put Blackpool FC in the same category. I think they've had a fantastic start this season, and I think finishing mid-table would be sensational for a newly promoted team. It would be the best of the 3 newly promoted teams. Their recent form's petered out a little bit. I don't think they've won in about 5 or 6 games. Their defeat against Luton at the weekend was a painful one to take, but I still think over the course of the season, it'll be a good one for Blackpool FC. I'm going to say mid-table for them. Next up are Swansea City Football Club. I've seen them this season a few times on the telly and when they came to Coventry. One of only 2 teams to come to Coventry and win. And I think in terms of possession, they play some really good football. Russell Martin's got them well drilled. They keep the ball. They've got good players in Joel Perreault and Jamie Patterson. I really like Swansea City. I think they're going to battle for the playoffs, but will they make it this season? I'm not sure. They're just not quite consistent enough at the moment. But I'm going to put them to get 63 to 71 points. Let me know if you agree, Swansea fans. I'm also going to say the same for Nottingham Forest. I think they're going to be on the cusps of the playoff this season. Whether they make it or not, I'm not sure. But the best decision they made this season was getting rid of Houghton and bringing in Cooper. They've been really, really good. Very few defeats under Cooper. I'm not sure how many they've lost, but they look very good. Even the games they're not winning, they're drawing. So they always seem to be picking up some points. I'm going to put Forest with 63 to 71 points. I'm also going to say the same for Luton Town. Really frustrating for the Luton fans, because even me as a Coventry fan would say they look fantastic on their day. They can rip some teams apart, but it's whether they can do it on a regular basis. They only have to be a little bit more consistent to get into the top six, because at the moment they're kind of battling between mid-table and the top six. So if they could be more consistent, they could do it this season. I think their points will probably be in the high 60s. I'm going to put them there. Next up are Huddersfield Town. They've obviously really surprised a few people this season by their fantastic start. I'm excited to see how Huddersfield and Coventry play out next week. I think Huddersfield have petered off a little bit, but I still think it'd be very encouraging for their fans if they were to finish mid-table this season. So I'm going to put them to get 54 to 62 points this season. Next up are Sheffield United, and I said this a few weeks ago, do not write them off. They've got the quality to do it, and now with the manager Heckingbottom, they seem to be being a bit more consistent. I think they're definitely going to finish in the top half this season and could even sneak into the top six. I'm going to say they'll get 63 to 71 points. Whether 70 or 71 points will be enough this season, we'll have to wait and see. I'm also going to put Middlesbrough in that same bracket, another club that's really benefited from changing the manager. I think Wilder's doing a decent job. The first couple of results were a bit frustrating. They seem to play well but not win, and they've won their last two, so things are clicking. And Chris Wilder's obviously got teams promoted from the Championship before, Sheffield United being the classic example. Middlesbrough, they look good, don't they? They're no mugs. I think top half finish at least for them. Same can be said for Millwall Football Club. They've only lost 5 games so far this season, which is the fewest out of any team outside the top 6. They just look really good, don't they? I think some of the frustrating things for the Millwall fans are the draws. So many of those draws they could have won, and they could be in that top 6 at the moment. But I think they're really going to battle for it. I'm going to put Millwall 63 to 71 points. Next up's my team, Coventry City. We seem to be standing at a bit of a crossroads at the moment where our season could go either way. Our recent form hasn't been great. It's weird to say that because we've had a couple of decent draws. I think drawing 2-2 away at Bournemouth was fantastic. Drawing 0-0 at Sheffield United isn't a bad result, but ultimately haven't won in our last 4. We need to get another win in before Christmas because we're falling away from the playoffs. I think a few Coventry fans did expect that. We did have a really good start. I didn't really think we were going to sustain it all season, but that fantastic start has put us in good stead to possibly be close to the playoffs this season. I think in terms of points, we're probably going to be in the 60s. That's probably what we're projecting. Once again, could just sneak in there. I'm going to put Coventry City in this category. Next up are Stoke City, and for me, I think they're going to get in the 70s. A really big win at QPR last time out, and they just look good enough for the playoffs. I think if they were more consistent, they could even challenge for the automatics, but there's been times where you think, that's not a good result. And I think Stoke City look like a playoff team for me. I think they've got the quality in terms of players. I think the manager's fantastic. The fans are right behind them. I think this season, Stoke City will make the playoffs. I'm also going to say the same for Queen's Park Rangers. I said this at the start of the season and I'm standing by it. They've just got too much quality in that team and they seem to be riding a bit of a wave. It started from January 2021. If you look at 2021 as a whole, QPR would probably be 3rd or 4th. They've been fantastic this year. And if they could just take that into the start of 2022, then they should be able to make the playoffs this season. I'm going to put them 72 to 80 points. Next up are Blackburn Rovers, and I'm not saying they won't make the playoffs, but I'm saying they could be on the cusp. I'm going to put them 63 to 71 points. They're definitely good enough. They're currently in the playoffs. They're in good form. I've said before with Tony Mowbray teams, they can have good starts and fall away. Blackburn know that. Coventry know that. And it's just about whether Blackburn can be consistent in the second half of the season. If they can be, then there's no reason why they can't make the playoffs this season. Ben Brereton Diaz is fantastic. I also like Gallagher. There's a lot of quality in that team. Tony Mowbray is an experienced manager, to be fair to him, so Blackburn could do it this season. Next up are West Bromwich Albion, and they've got to go in one of the 2 categories at the top, but I might just sneak them into 81 to 100. I'm not saying they're definitely going to finish in the top 2, but in terms of points, I think they're going to be the closest threat to the top 2. Remember, a few weeks ago, there was a bit of negativity and some people were calling for Val's head. I think West Bromwich Albion have a great team and should be in the top 3 this season, but whether they'll be in the top 2, we'll have to wait and see. AFC Bournemouth for me are definitely going to get over 81 points. They could finish top, they could finish 2nd, they could finish 3rd. I think realistically they're going to finish 2nd. For me, Fulham are going to win the league. But we'll wait and see. It's the Championship. Anything can change. That's going to be my top 3. But what's going to be the top 2 at the end of the season? I'll let you fight that out down in the comments. So then if you look at it from bottom to top, by my reckoning, I do think Derby, Barnsley and Peterborough will go down at the time of recording this. Reading, Hull and Bristol to stay up. In the middle of the table, you've got Cardiff, Preston, Birmingham, Blackpool and Huddersfield. It's really tight in the top half between Swansea, Forest, Luton, Sheffield United, Middlesbrough, Millwall, Coventry and Blackburn. And as you can see, there's only 5 teams above that. So any of those teams between 63 to 71 points could sneak into the playoffs. 6th place does usually get around 70 to 73 points in the Championship. So if Coventry, Blackburn, Millwall, Middlesbrough, Sheffield United, Luton, Forest or Swansea were to get in the early 70s, that could just be enough to book themselves a playoff place. I do think Stoke City and QPR will finish in the playoffs, probably around 4th and 5th. And my top 3 are going to be West Bromwich Albion, Bournemouth and Fulham. At the time of recording this, I'd probably say Fulham to win the league and Bournemouth second, but you never know. So then guys, that wraps up today's video. Let me know what you think your team's going to get in terms of points down below in the comments. If you agree or disagree, that's fine. Just get the comments down below. Make sure you've hit a like button on this video, subscribed if you are new, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace out.